The MP-44 Masterpiece Optimus Prime is awesome. What else can I say? I will mention that I'm no expert on anything Transformers, as the last actual transforming Transformers figure I had was the G1 Optimus back a solid 27 years ago. But I do love me some robots. However, all I can say is this thing without a single doubt deserves the title Masterpiece. An absolutely epic figure with crazy detail, accessories up the wazoo, killer articulation, and this thing absolutely dominates a shelf. This truly is a masterpiece. But mind the knees, they're delicate. But as a 27-year estranged Transformers fan, to say this thing is mind-blowing is an understatement. This has literally unlocked nostalgic memories that I never knew I had, as well as one dark, repressed one. My G1 Optimus was a hand-me-down. I never had the trailer. Just the robot, never had the trailer, only bought, no trailer. I've waited almost 30 years for this, and it was worth every single second. Now let's do this. Hey, what is up everyone? Welcome back to another review, and today I'm taking a look at something I am hugely excited about looking at. This is my first time ever, and I mean ever, taking a look at a Masterpiece Transformer. This, of course, is MP-44 Convoy version 3.0, or as you and I would know it, Optimus Prime. So once again, this review right here would not be possible without those absolutely awesome people over at Hobby Link Japan. So if you do want one of your own, there's a link in the description. The cost is up there in the corner right now for you to check out. But anyway, on to the review. So first off, before I take a look at the absolutely mind-bendingly awesome robot, let's take a quick look around the box. So this is just a big cardboard box. It's old school in its own right. Back when I used to live in Japan, you would always see these kind of boxes and they're kind of timeless in a way. Whether the figure is like 20 years old, 30 years old, or like this right here brand new, they still have this old school style box, which is pretty cool. On the front there we get to see truck mode as well as it in robot mode right there. On both sides of the box we get the exact same pictures that we saw on the front, that is the truck as well as the robot. On the bottom of the box we get a snapshot view of absolutely everything that comes in here, and this thing is packing a ridiculous amount of stuff in here. And by flipping around to the back, you can see just how variable this figure is and how much stuff it comes with. And honestly, this is all squeezed into a relatively small box. But anyway, that is enough about the outside of the box. It's what's on the inside that counts. And I have to admit, on first pulling this clear plastic inner packaging out, I was kind of shocked by how small it looked. And I will say, looked. If you're a regular here for my Gundam reviews, I'm going to throw down a Master Grade Gundam right now so you can see just how small that bot looks compared to a Master Grade, and when you throw down an even bigger Master Grade like that Sazabi Verka, you can see that the truck version does look deceptively small. But I don't know about you guys, I'm not here to be looking at a truck, I'm here to be looking at that robot. So there he is, Convoy 3.0, or should I say Optimus Prime, in all of his absolute premium glory. This thing looks ridiculously good. I will speak some more on the transformation later. It is a bit on the difficult side, but I assume after doing it a few times it won't be so bad. I've heard the knees aren't the greatest, so be careful. Apparently they are a massive braking hazard, but so far, so good. But what can I say? This thing looks incredible. Again, this is one extremely premium looking figure right here. Honestly, everything about here is absolutely eye-wateringly beautiful. The colors are incredible. That glossy red, glossy white, glossy yellow, and glossy dark blue all look absolutely perfect. Up on the shoulder there we've got that Autobots logo, but it's just in a line art, which I think keeps it classy, keeps it awesome. They did go with chromed out parts for the silver. I'm a little bit on the fence about that. I'll mention why in a little bit. But on the whole, this thing looks absolutely phenomenal. The silhouette, to me, is absolutely perfect. It really brings back all those childhood Optimus Prime memories. This measures in at about 9.5 inches or 24 centimeters, which does mean it is quite big. So just like one of you guys said on Instagram or Twitter, I can't remember which, Optimus definitely is a grower, not a shower, because that bot looked small, or should I say that truck looked small, but the bot is huge. All I can say is I'm blown away and incredibly impressed. But then again, I've been out of the Transformers figure game for quite some time. And honestly, the last Hasbro figure I had of Optimus Prime was the Generation one, way back in the day. You know, that one right there. So that's 25 or 27 years ago. That's a long time ago. And as far as I know, the particular G1 Optimus Prime I would have had as a kid was a hand-me-down of some description, because that original line of toys would have been slightly before my time. And the other reason I know it was a hand-me-down was because I never had anything like this. So yeah, when I was a kid with the G1 Optimus, I never had the trailer, so I guess that's how I remember. It was some kind of hand-me-down, so this is what I'm all about right here. This for me was holy grail shit. This, I'm keeping for later. But honestly, this right here, this god among robot figures, is how my childhood brain remembered the original G1 toys, so to me, this is an absolute nostalgia trip. However, in the interim, I've never actually collected any Hasbro Transformer figures or any of the Takara Tomy masterpieces. Totally tempted now. So just for the sake of comparison, I've got a spin of the Optimus there on the left so you can get a nice full 360 look at what he looks like in all his absolute glory. I'm digging that backpack, by the way. And on the right, I'll cycle through some things to compare it to. Of course, up there right now, we've got what the actual Generation 1 toy looked like, which is a lot, not as awesome as I thought it was. It's definitely aged quite a bit, still awesome though. And secondly, there is an image of what he looked like from the cartoon back in the 1980s. So to me, I think this is an absolute perfect representation of that robot. Personally, from going from the Generation 1 to this one right here, I've never seen anything quite as awesome as this right here. But then again, I've missed a lot of Transformers. So I did mention already that I don't like the chromed parts on this for a reason, and I'm going to say what that reason is right now before I absolutely and utterly forget. And that is this right here. There's a little bit of a chunk missing here where it would have been cut off the runners it was molded on, or spruced, for that word. These do show in every single chromed part, and basically they've just topped this up with a bit of a silver paint that doesn't quite match. So they are quite obvious when you do see them, and there's nothing masterpiece about something like this. For the most part, all of these are out of sight most of the time, but it is there, and if you are picky, you'll notice. So honestly, it would have been better if they chromed them after cutting them out, or just not chromed them at all. But either way, it's not the worst aesthetic issue, and on the whole, he's still beautiful. And while I'm at it, I might as well go off on another aside completely, and that's to do with the name. For example, in Japan he's known as Convoy, in the Western cartoon he was Optimus Prime, and the reason for him being Convoy in Japan is, Optimus is nothing special. When they say convoy, they literally mean a convoy. So basically our boy Optimus here did come from the Japanese range of toys called Diaclone. And only recently I realized that these actually are still going. Honestly, I don't know what I mean by saying they're still going. I had no idea they existed in the first place. So there are a couple coming out in the next couple of months. If you want to see them on here, let me know down there in the comments, because I would really like to take a look at those. They look awesome. But anyway, before I stop talking about how awesome this bad boy right here looks, it's time for some size comparisons. So first off, like I mentioned, it is pretty big. It's 24 centimeters tall, that's 9.5 inches. So first off, there it is, side by side, with the dual model kit Optimus Prime from Dark of the Moon, also by Takara Tomy, and right now I do have a giveaway running where you can win that, as well as the absolutely awesome real grade new Gundam. So once again, the link to that giveaway is down in the description. There's still a week or maybe two left on that, so get in and win. And speaking of model kits, there it is side by side with the absolutely awesome Flame Toys model kit. And the last actual Optimus I have is this right here, this tiny little guy who transforms into a pen. I mean seriously, this little guy right here is so awesome. A transforming Optimus Prime pen. Look, the little pen piece is actually inside of his little gun there. How awesome is that? I wonder if it still works. Let's see. Yeah, it still works. Awesome. Of course, there is reviews of all these guys on the channel, including the awesome pen. And speaking of awesome, did anybody say GoBots? No? No one? Alright then. Continuing on with those size comparisons, there it is side by side with the high-grade Gundam Sandrock, beside the real-grade Gundam 00 Riser, side by side with a standard master-grade Gundam, that's the RX-78-2, the Granddaddy, and there it is side by side with a big old master-grade Gundam, that is the Sazabi Verka. As for a couple of perfect grade Gundams, there it is side by side with the 007 Sword, the perfect grade Strike, as well as the perfect grade Exia Lighting Mode. And for a final comparison, there's a Funko Pop Figma Nendoroid SH Figuarts and a Warhammer model, just for the sake of comparison. So as you can see, he's pretty damn big, so that does mean he will stand out in most collections. And speaking of which, finally there he is up on the shelf for that shelf presence test. So all of those are 1/100 scale, master grade Gunpla, at least for the most part. So yeah, the Masterpiece 44 is a pretty big boy and looks great on a shelf. So also Optimus right here has some voice lines. Around the back we've got a on-off switch, as well as this switch here that makes him talk like so. Yeah, right. So we have 6 different voice modes in here 5 of which are Japanese, 1 of which is English, and I'm gonna assume you don't really care too much about the Japanese. It sounds like this. To swap between the modes, just hold down this button here until. So I will mention in Japanese it does have 5 different modes, and there's a whole bunch of lines on each mode, but on the English, it seems like he only says about, well, 4 things. So anyway, let's take a bit of a listen.
Transform and roll out. One shall stand, one shall fall. I am Optimus Prime.
So yeah, I'm only hearing 3, that is.
Transform and roll out.
That one.
One shall stand.
That one.
I am Optimus
And that one.
Prime.
When you've got the full cycle, then you hear this. So all in all, that's pretty cool. So now moving on to the accessories, and here is the Masterpiece 44 Optimus Prime with absolutely everything that it comes with, and there's no denying that this box is packing. In here we get the control tower, the roller, the ion blaster, but in here it's referred to as the laser rifle, and I'm just gonna go with the Japanese names from here on out. This battle damage side section, some Starscream intakes for on its back, that is for using with the Starscream Head, this clear adapter, rocket booster backpack, energy pipe, energy axe, beam effect parts. We've got 3 alternate heads as well as the one we've seen already, that's a total of 4. Matrix of leadership, these 3 little dudes really bringing on that Diaclone vibe, and of course, that glorious trailer. So first up, let's take a look at everything that can be used with the bot. So first up in here is that laser rifle. This looks fairly nice. It's in a metallic gunmetal. The detailing on it is nice, but I will mention that if you are someone who's into figure photography or something like that and want to make it look as realistic as possible, these screws will be a bit of a, well, immersion destroyer. So if you are trying to keep it as realistic as possible, you're going to be taking all your shots from this side right here. Not this side, which has the screws. To attach this, you just stick the peg into the palm of the hand, wrap the fingers around, and voila! There you go. So there's a look at what Optimus will look like holding onto it, and so far, so good. While I do have this attached, I might as well show that you can stick the beam effects in there for this cool shooting effect. This does get a little bit washed out against that white background, so there it is up on the shelf, so you can see that once again in different lighting, so that does look pretty damn cool. And when this is not in use, you can flip down the handle like so, and then slap it into these little 2 holes right here on the side, so that's what it looks like stored on his backpack. We also have the option of folding this in half, just like so, flipping up this little blue butt flap, and then that can just slide onto that little rail section inside of the butt flap, and that looks just like that right there. Next up in here, we've got that Energon axe, or as it's called in here, the energy axe. To attach this, you just pop off the hand, then pop it on where the hand was. And this does look pretty cool. I do like the frosted, almost opaque kind of vibe to this. It does look really nice, catches the light nicely, but once again, we do have a big old screw in the middle. This may bother some people, it may not bother some people at all, but it is worth noting that it is there. But because that is there, that does mean we get a bit of articulation, so it can move up and down in this choppy action. And all in all, I have to say this looks pretty damn cool. There it is up on a shelf, so you can see it under some different lighting, in a bit of a pose. Well, the same pose I had it in already, but all in all, looking pretty damn cool. Next up then in here, we've got the Matrix. This is made out of metal, which is pretty damn rad. It's also painted in silver, gold, and blue, so it's quite eye-catching. All in all, pretty cool. To attach this into Optimus, just pop open the 2 chest sections. This gray section in his chest opens up like so. That little metal matrix just slides into that chest cavity. Flip down that little cover that we opened up, and then just close up the chest, and that's where it will stay for eternity, because I'll probably forget it's in there, but that is awesome. Next up in here then, we've got the rocket booster. Simple enough, just flip around backways, and it just clips into the top and pushes in at the bottom. Simple as, and looks like that. Also remember that effect part we used earlier on for that blasting effect? Well, we've got 2 of those. So that means we can pop those into those verniers or thrusters there on his backpack, and there we've got a kind of jet blasting effect. So that is pretty cool, and that is exactly what it looks like right there. So the last of the things then we've got for using directly with the bot are some alternate heads and parts for different versions of Optimus. So first up right there, we've got this standard head that comes in this, that's the normal head. As well as that, we've got a secondary head, which is the round head. That's this one right here. It looks kind of just weird and lame compared to the normal one. And then we've got the damaged head. So there is all 3 variants of the Optimus Prime heads all together in a row, so you can check them out. To swap these out, it's pretty simple. They just slide off like that and then slide on just like so. Simple. It is worth noting that all of these heads feature a soft plastic on these little spiky bits, and honestly I would have said in the past that you don't need to do something like this on what is essentially an adult's collector's item, but I used to store this Warhammer terrain right here, right beside a plug socket on the ground, and have come uncomfortably eye to spike close with hard pointy plastic, so I think it's probably a good thing. But anyway, continuing on with those options, as well as that damaged head, we also have this damaged side section which just clips on just like so. And all in all, this is a pretty cool look. Sure, it is only just his head and his side damaged, but does look pretty damn cool. And the last of the heads we have in here, of course, is that Starscream head, and we also have those intakes as well to go with it. To attach the intakes, you just pop off the backpack by flipping up the little clip section, pop it on over the clip, close it all up, and there you go. And of course, this is for pulling off this classic pose right here. All in all, once again, this thing looks so fantastic. So now moving on to the rest of the accessories, and man, there is a lot in this box. And first off, I might as well mention the little human figures that you get in here. Of course, we get Sparkplug, Carly, and Spike, the master of heroic interventions.
Let go of my dad!
Ugh.
These guys are somewhat articulated. It's not really all that worth talking about. The head is on a ball joint. The arms are on a ball joint just up at the shoulder, like so. We've got a tiny little ab crunch right here. We got ball joints at the hips for a kick like so, and we've got a bend at the knee. So all in all, for something that's only 3 centimeters tall, it's actually quite cool. Also, these guys have magnets on their back as well as on their feet. For that extreme, gravity defiance. Next up then, we've got the roller, and of course these guys can get in it, so pop, pop, pop. But the real question right here is, does this pass the most important test of all? Let's see. Yep, the wheels turn. It's awesome. As well as that, we do have some moving parts like the ability to pop the bonnet, check out those horsepowers, and flip it around to the back, and this part swings up just like so, and even further, like that. And of course, this is for attaching a whole bunch of things. Whoa, don't do that, that's dangerous. But one thing did mildly disappoint me, and that's because this thing right here, it straight up looks like a light, but it's not a light and doesn't light up. It's just a clear red piece, but that's a bit disappointing. But anyway, as for this little connection segment up here, we can take this hose segment that we saw earlier on, kind of attach that on something like this, and then the handle of that can pop into one of these segments, a little something like that right there. If you want some firepower, you're able to stick Optimus's laser rifle, or whatever it's called, up there just like so. If you vacate everyone from the roller, also if we grab the anti-aircraft gun back here, pop this little bit down, yank it off, flip out this little segment here, you can also attach that onto the roller, like so. Pretty damn awesome. Or if you do prefer, you can just flip out this little segment underneath, slot that into the back of the roller like so, and then you've got yourself one sweet little trailer. And speaking of trailers, if that little trailer isn't enough for you, just pop that off, flip this little section on the back around again, get Optimus's container trailer, flip up these little stand segments and just stick it in, and there you go. That little roller there is one little strong son of a bitch. Up next is the control tower anti-aircraft gun. Here we have a rotating, flipping up antenna, a pair of slide out guns. We've already seen this towing part, so flip that back in underneath, out of the way, and this whole thing can extend up pretty high actually. There we go, there it is at absolute full extension. We have a locking mechanism here which stops the upper section up here from moving. Bring that down and it can move. The cockpit section can open up. Pop in Spike there. I had figured something in here would be magnetized to hold him in place, but doesn't look like it. Anyway, there he is inside. Up here we've got this fully articulated arm. This is pretty awesome. It flips all the way around underneath. It can rotate at this point here, bend right here, and that little arm can open up like so. Grabby grabby. So of course the wheels on this thing work as well. It drifts pretty good on a glass table, just in case you were curious, which you probably were not. And when not in use for drifting, we can just flip these in like so, pop these little bits out like that, and we'll take a look at what this is for in a minute after taking a look at this. Now this is it right here. I've waited 27 plus years for this. I've never had the trailer. And I know this is a way better trailer than the one we would have gotten with the G1 back in the day. Well, I didn't get it, but I don't know if I'm ready for this. Here we go. So there it is in all its trailery glory. Was it worth the 27-year wait? Well, hell yeah. But anyway, as for what it does, flip it over. We've got these little standy sections when it's got nothing attached. The back door swing open to reveal a product placement. Is your dog depressed because he looks absolutely nothing like Goku? Well, now he can with this here Goku t-shirt. Look, it's cute, it's awesome, you want one. Get them now, Hobby Link Japan, link in the description. When this thing isn't busy delivering animal cosplay, these little segments can swing out here, and the whole thing can crack open like so. Check that out. We also have this here, this slide out loading part, which I meant to mention earlier on, and even better, and this is one of the best aspects about this. This is so cool. We've got a tray down here for holding onto the accessories that you're not using. How awesome is that? I love when you can keep all the accessories on or in something on the shelf so you can whip them out whenever you want them. Awesome. Also, these little segments right here, those are magnetized, and I think these are magnetized too. So all your little chaps can stick on here praising the sun. Seriously, there isn't really a lot of poses you can do with these, so that'll have to do. Next up, the tower section. That can lock in here just like that with those bits that I showed earlier on. Of course, this thing here can do all of its jazz while it's attached, like so, and like so. The exhaust sections here on the back of the roller, they can slot in here, but this doesn't have that cool spring gimmick that the original G1 sort of one had, which isn't really all that big of a deal, really. Or is it? We've got some drop-down segments that don't sound great, but these are on the roof, one here, as well as one here. Listen to this. Listen to this. This doesn't sound good. Ugh, sounds like it's breaking. Flip this sucker up here around like so, and if you get it at just the right angle, you can close this whole thing up. That's not the right angle. Is this the right angle? No. Then I guess it must be that. Yeah. So basically when this closes up, that thing can still stick out the top like so. Your guys in there might be a little bit sideways, but who cares? Next up then we flip these guys back in. So to do the next part, seeing as Optimus Prime is busy over there taking out the rabble, he's a little bit busy in robot mode, we're gonna use this roller instead for this part. So once again, we're gonna flip back those bits, stick on the roller, and there we go. We got that anti-aircraft gun up on top, so that is a pretty awesome feature. This thing is so variable, it's awesome. If you're the kind of person that likes your anti-aircraft guns with a little bit more length, then you can pop this open, lose your roller, give this the old extendo, fold these little segments right here out, close it all up again, like so, and there we go. It looks like some kind of mechanical dinosaur, but I will mention that this seems to push down a lot on the roller, causing it to raise its front wheels off the ground ever so slightly because of the sheer weight of this thing. But if you're the kind of person who likes your anti-aircraft guns with a little less length, then open that back up again, take out the anti-aircraft tower, flip it around the other way around, bring down the first part of the stand tower section of that, flip those doors back in the way, close it all up, and you end up with this right here, looking beautiful. So lastly, and I think they're taking the outright Mickey with this one right here. This one is just like, is this even a thing? Anyway, basically it's the same as what we had before, so that is the long length on that anti-aircraft gun, and then you just put it on its side, or should I say upright like this, and now it's a tower? Anyway, that is what that looks like. So next up then, and this is an awesome feature, this pops open like so, reset this back to its standard position, down you come. I'll put your antenna. These little segments right here flip down. These are magnetized on the underside for your sun worshipping friends right here. We can then pop the energy pipe into one of these tiny little slots here, looking something like that. It just kind of hangs there, I guess. There is a second slot there, so I assume I can pop that into it. Yup. And what we end up with is this absolutely awesome looking maintenance dock. Anyway, we need Optimus for this, so I'm gonna check if he's ready. Hey Optimus, are you done with that rabble there, yeah? Yep, cool. Get in the dock already. Honestly, I don't feel the light on the desk does this much justice, so this is what it will look like up on a shelf, and I think this is pretty cool as a display right here. Sure, it is all in that kind of gunmetal color, so you kind of need good lighting to kind of cast some shadows in there, so it looks its best, but all in all, this is pretty cool. Nice display. So anyway, we are back to the bot, back to Optimus himself, and I'm moving on to something I didn't really want to move into at all, and that is the articulation. The reason for this is that this joint back here, this one right here, get in even closer, this one right here is notoriously delicate and easy to break. So basically when you bend this knee, this segment here, right here, is meant to enter into that hole behind it. This is actually a little bit too tight, doesn't necessarily fit in the way it should. So when you push too hard here, you can see that is pushing against this joint and the housing of the ratchet joint, not actually sliding in and doing the knee bend it's meant to. So I'm not going to bend its knee ever past this point right here. I will put a link in the description to a forum talking about how to modify it to make sure that it doesn't break. But my Optimus right here is just like it is out of the box, unmodified, so I'm not going to bend it past that point. But anyway, enough about that. From the head down, as usual, the head can tilt forward like this. That does make this part move up, but quite the tilt. If you're looking from down here, you will not notice. Besides that, his head is a ball joint, so we've got up, down. How about that? Giggity, giggity, giggity. It's not really a giggity, is it? That thing can rotate all the way around like so. And there's that side to side tilt. At the shoulder, the arm can move up and down like so. Full 360 right here. Most of these are clacky ratchet joints. We have a secondary up and down bend here, so that does add to it a little bit. Can bop himself in the head with the pipe. Full rotation right here. Bend at the elbow. That is very, very nice. We have a bit of flexion, extension here at the wrist. Full rotation. This thumb can bend in and out. These three fingers can curl at that knuckle all the way in like that to make a fist. Well, pointy finger. And that index finger can do the exact same thing, but it's separated to the other three. Next up, as for his ab crunch, it kind of locks back here, so you have to pop that out. And then what we get is all the way to the front like that, which is pretty nice. We don't really get anything to the back without unlocking the transformation mechanism in here, so it's really just that right there, which is still pretty damn nice. The front crotch skirting armor here seems to be a spring-loaded mechanism that moves back like this when you raise the leg up. We'll test that out with the leg in a minute. Side skirting, flap up and down, very simple. Optimus has a double premium butt flap back here. I'm impressed. Good on ya. And this little segment here we saw already can flip out for storage of weapons. So as for the legs, there's the kick all the way up to the front. That is nice, and that ratchet joint holds it nicely in place there. Like I said, that part folds up and out of the way. At the back, move that back butt flap up, and there's all the way out to the back. Very, very nice. That did drop a little bit, but the ratchet catches it. Next up, I'm going to move up those side skirts, see if you can pull off that splits. Oh, without a single doubt. Beautiful. We have some rotation here at the upper thigh. This does feel quite delicate. I'm not going to push this too much, but it gets all the natural movement that you'd want. So there's all the way out, there's all the way in. So kawaii right there. Dare I test the bend at the knee? I'll see what I can get. I won't give it any force. So there's the upper bend, but instantly it hits that blockage of the lower joint. How about this one right here? Yeah, it does not want to go beyond that point, and personally I kind of don't want to bring it beyond that point. Anyway, I did it. Never mind. So I did it off camera nice and gently, so you just have to make sure that this little joint section, the one that I mentioned before, actually makes its way into that hole. If you actually pay attention to that, it isn't really all that bad. I got the bend, so I don't mind bending it out. Fine like that. So if you want that full bend, be careful. The knee segments here, those can move up and down like so. And finally then at the ankle, there's the pivot in. That is very nice. As for the pivot out, it doesn't go out too far, but then again, neither does my foot, so can't complain. There it is, flexed all the way down, not too bad, and all the way up. And ooh, we've got this kind of little toe bend that brings out this little segment right here. All in all, pretty cool, and let's try out a dynamic pose. So there it is, finally in a pose, and I did almost forget to mention in this review that you can use the anti-aircraft stand section as a stand for this figure, but the thing is, it's a little on the weak side. That's why it's kind of flopped down like this. The locking mechanism doesn't really lock well enough to hold up the absolute weight that is Optimus. But either way, I attempted fate again with that knee, bent it went well again, no problems, just make sure to line it up perfectly. But besides that, this thing is an absolute posing machine. It is awesome. Awesome. And that leaves us, what, one final thing to do, and of course, that's the transformation. And speaking of the transformation, it's as easy as...
Thanks.
Yeah, I wish. Nah, it's not really easy at all. So yeah, all in all, the transformation on this is quite difficult. Once again, I am new to the Masterpiece line, so I'm not sure if they're all this difficult or not, but this is pretty tough. Especially because going from bot to the truck itself does involve going backwards through the instructions, which can get a little bit confusing. So what you're seeing right now isn't the most perfect transformation right here. There's a lot of parts I had to go back on and realign and stuff like that. and the camera kind of crapped out midway through because it was taking me so long. But all in all, in the end, it is fairly difficult to transform, and finally, here we are back to the beginning. This is what it was like out of the box. Actually, it was a bit better. A lot of things like this here not lining up correctly. You can see it's a bit crooked around back here. On this side, this didn't quite line up perfectly. The wheels do run on this side, but on this side, no. But all in all, pretty cool, and let's check out what we can do with the truck, because this review is dragging on a little bit. So pretty awesome. The doors on the cab can open up, just like that. Doesn't look like the most comfortable of a seat in there. Also, I will mention, while I transformed this, I did leave the matrix in it, so you can transform it with the matrix inside. And of course, there is what it looks like sticking Spike in to that seat. Also, nobody's going to be seeing nothing out that windscreen. So finally, let's get this ready for the moment of truth, which of course is attaching the trailer to the bot. Prep that turret, open up the noisy sunroof. There we go. Close it all up. Shut those doors. Spark plug can ride in here. Close it up. Back the roller up in there. Up. Close. Flip it around. Get that tray. Take all of those unused accessories, pop them in there. I will mention that you can put the Starscream parts into it, which is a bit of a letdown. Slide it all back in. I guess the Starscream parts are gonna have to be put in the back. Flip around. Up with those stand little bits and finally, pop on the trailer. And finally, there we go. There's the trailer attached. This looks absolutely awesome. This is absolutely awesome. All in all, I have to say I love this thing right here. It is absolutely, well, a masterpiece. Oops, almost forgot. You can turbocharge this bad boy with the backpack. So that is it for the review, and there's not really a lot I can say right now that I haven't said already. This thing is absolutely fantastic. Beware those knees though, because they can break, but from my experience so far, as long as you're careful, know how the mechanism works, you can avoid that breakage easy. Just don't push something that feels like it shouldn't be pushed. Definitely the transformation is a little on the difficult side, but that makes it really fun. And all in all, this definitely, without a single doubt, deserves the name masterpiece. For me, it takes everything that my childhood brain thought the G1 truck was, and makes it that way. It's absolutely and utterly mind-blowing, and once again, I'm so glad to finally have an Optimus Prime trailer. It's so sad, but it's true. Anyway, if you do want one of your own, there's a link down there in the description. You can get yours at HobbyLink Japan, that's where I got mine. And if you've made it this long into the video, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to come back for more reviews, and I'll see you next time. Once again, this video right here would not be possible without all of you guys who watch my videos, as well as those who support me over on the channel memberships and on Patreon, including Craig Jerry, NQG420, Kaiser721, Forged Horizons, Vex, Bullwig, and Tyler Sanders.